Sigmund Freud. The name's everywhere, right? The couch, the theories. We all kind of know the gist. But the man? Now that's a whole other story. He's every bit as complex as the unconscious mind he spent his life trying to map. In this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers on this giant of the 20th century, looking at his incredible mind and, well, the body that ultimately betrayed him.
So, let's start with this quote. The year is 1938. Freud, who is Jewish, is literally fleeing for his life from Nazi-occupied Austria. He's being freed, right? But listen to his words. Great sorrow, loved the prison. Vienna was everything to him for almost 80 years. It was his home, his life's work, and his prison. That mix of feelings, that incredible conflict, that's Freud in a nutshell. It's the perfect way to start to understand him.
And wow, what a life's work. I mean, think about it. He gave us a whole new vocabulary to talk about ourselves. Words like ego, id, repression, the unconscious, we use them all the time. He was like the first great map maker of our inner worlds, trying to chart these hidden continents inside our heads that he was convinced were pulling all the strings.
But, and this is the really tragic twist in his story, while he was busy decoding the human mind, his own body was staging a rebellion. A full-on war was breaking out inside him, and it was a war that would last for 16 long years, a fight against an enemy that he, the great diagnostician, couldn't even put a name to.
All right, so to really get this epic conflict between his mind and his body, we've got to go back, way back. Let's see how this revolutionary thinker even came to be.
I mean, look at this. The guy's early talent was just off the charts. We think of him as the father of psychoanalysis. But before all that, he was a neurologist with a photographic memory who spoke 7 languages. And he wasn't just some bookworm either. He was in the lab getting his hands dirty, researching the gonads of eels, yep, and even investigating cocaine as an anesthetic. And that time he spent in Paris with the famous neurologist Charcot, that was a total game changer. It's what pointed him toward the mysteries of the mind. And that was it. From then on, his focus shifted inward. He started aiming all that incredible brain power at the psyche itself, and that's when he started developing the big ideas, the theories that would make him a household name, and, let's be honest, a pretty controversial figure too.
Okay, so this is his big one, the unconscious. The idea is simple, but it's huge. He basically said, hey, you know who's driving the car? It's not you. He believed most of what makes us tick, our deep-seated desires, our biggest fears, our old traumas, is all happening in the dark, totally outside of our conscious control. You can imagine, for the buttoned-up Victorian world, this idea was, well, it was terrifying.
So if the unconscious is the hidden world, this is his map. The id, the ego, and the superego. It's a great way to think about it. The id is like that little devil on your shoulder, right? The primal part that wants what it wants now. The superego is the angel, the voice of your parents and society, wagging its finger and telling you all the rules. And the ego? That's you. The poor, stressed-out manager in the middle, just trying to keep the peace between these two. And according to Freud, that constant battle inside us, that's what personality is. And then we get to maybe his most famous, and let's face it, most controversial idea, the psychosexual stages. He claimed our whole personality is basically forged by how we get through these phases in childhood. The most well-known part of this is the Oedipus complex from the phallic stage. You know, the idea that a little boy unconsciously wants his mom and feels like he's competing with his dad. Love it or hate it, Freud insisted these early childhood dramas were the blueprints for who we become as adults. Okay, so when you drop an idea bomb that big, you're gonna get followers. A whole movement started to form around him. But, as often happens, the bigger it got, the more it started to crack. And some of his brightest students, they ended up becoming his biggest rivals. And we're not talking about small disagreements here. These were fundamental splits. You had Alfred Adler saying, nope, it's not all about sex, Sigmund. It's about our drive to feel superior and overcome our insecurities. Then there was Carl Jung, who everyone thought was Freud's golden boy. He went in a totally different direction, talking about a collective unconscious, this kind of shared ancient memory bank for all of humanity. He also thought libido is just general life energy, not purely sexual. And let me tell you, these weren't friendly debates over coffee. They were messy, bitter, professional divorces. All right, let's pause the intellectual drama for a second. Because while all of this was going on in the world of ideas, something much more raw, much more personal was starting to happen to Freud. A physical battle was beginning, and it would completely take over the final act of his life.
34.
Just think about that number for a moment. 34 surgical operations. This wasn't just a get sick, get treated kind of thing. This was a 16-year nightmare. Constant surgeries, constant pain. It slowly robbed him of his ability to even eat or speak properly. And the incredible part? He just kept working through it all. Writing, seeing patients, everything.
And this cancer, it wasn't some random thing that came out of nowhere. It was kind of the terrible grand finale to a lifetime of health problems. He had crushing migraines, a terrible colon, heart issues. I mean, he was almost always in some kind of physical pain. And what was fueling it? His one great vice, cigars. Around 20 of them every single day. It was a habit he just never kicked.
This quote it gets me. It's so simple, but it tells you everything you need to know about his daily life. Imagine that. He's trying to revolutionize psychology, write these incredible books, and listen to his patients, all while having to stop every hour to put a new hot water bag on his face to deal with the pain. He even had this awful jaw prosthesis that he called the monster. That was his reality. And then in the final years, everything just collided. His private war against his own body merged with the public, catastrophic war that was about to swallow the entire world. His personal timeline and the timeline of history, they just tragically slammed into each other.
It all happened so fast. In 1933, the Nazis are burning his books. 5 years later, they've taken his country, and he has to flee his home. He made it to London, but tragically 4 of his sisters didn't. They were murdered in concentration camps. He gets to safety just as World War II is kicking off, and he dies just 3 weeks after it officially begins. So we know it was cancer, we know he suffered for 16 years, but here's the crazy part. For all that time, with all the best doctors in Europe looking at him, nobody knew exactly what it was. The specific disease remained a mystery.
And get this, the answer, the actual name for his disease, didn't come until 1948. 9 years after he was already dead, a pathologist finally identified it as verrucous carcinoma, a rare form of cancer. Think about the irony there. The man who spent his entire career naming the hidden parts of our minds died from a disease that, during his lifetime, literally had no name.
And we know this for a fact because his actual tissue samples were saved in Paris. Years later, scientists were able to go back, look at them with modern technology, and confirm the diagnosis. So you have this man who was so far ahead of his time intellectually, but at the same time, he was a victim of a medical world that just hadn't caught up to him yet. His final diagnosis came long after he was gone. So in the end, Freud's own life is maybe as fascinating as any of his theories, right? The man who literally wrote the book on our inner conflicts died from an outer one that his incredible mind was powerless to solve. And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway. His story is a powerful reminder that no matter how much we know or think we know, there are limits. It really makes you wonder about that mysterious, powerful connection between our minds and our bodies, doesn't it?